So what's the podcast about this week anyway?
I don't care.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast, where we discuss the world of film from a fresh angle. And now your host, Robert Yaniz Jr.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast. This is Rob.
And this is Kai.
And on this episode, we're talking about Black Panther, nothing but Black Panther. And this will be a spoilers discussion. So if you haven't seen the movie, which it sounds like pretty much everyone in the country has seen the movie, I wouldn't listen to this until after you see it. So I think spoilers. I think we would both recommend you at least check it out. At least give it a shot, and then come back to this episode once you've seen the movie, so you can hear all our spoilerific analysis, I guess.
Plus, do you really want to go back to work after a holiday weekend and tell your coworkers you didn't see Black Panther?
That's true. Plus, if you have seen the movie, then when you're driving to work tomorrow, you can listen to this podcast and make your commute a little easier.
That's right.
There you go. We're always in your ear holes. So, Kai, welcome back to the Crooked Table Podcast. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. It's been a long while. I think wasn't my last one Wonder Woman? Or
Have I
been on one
was
more
it really?
recently than that? I don't even know.
Well, I think the big thing here is that now our child is not 100% clingy like she once was, as far as we can have our own life a little bit.
Yes.
Which is nice. So hopefully we can get you back on here more regularly and maybe even do some crooked commentaries. We've been talking about doing that for a while. I've been threatening to make you watch Scott Pilgrim and do a crooked commentary about that. It would just be me. Basically, it would be 2 hours of me going, "This movie's amazing," and you being like, "I don't really get it."
Yeah, I have seen it already.
I know, but not with the comment. No, we haven't recorded your thoughts on it.
No, but I wonder if this time around, even though I saw it, it was 6-7 years ago. So I feel
Was
like
it really that long ago?
It was really that long ago.
Oh, you're due then. You're due.
Yeah, I might still be like, "What's happening?" and want to focus on it.
He's fighting one of the evil exes will probably be my most common answer when you're asking things.
One of which who is now in the Marvel Universe.
Chris Evans?
Yeah.
Or Brie Larson.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. Now there's two.
Or maybe Mary Elizabeth Winstead's in the Cloverfield universe.
But that's not Marvel.
I know, but I'm saying she's in a franchise now. So when we talked about Cloverfield last week.
Right, but that's not what we're talking about this week.
That's true. Freddie was supposed to be here, but Freddie's fallen under the weather and wasn't able to make it into his schedule without feeling disgusting. And I heard he's not really even able to speak very well, and that's kind of not conducive to a podcast. So luckily, Kai was still able to not really fill in, because I think we were talking about doing the three of us on there. And I think that's an idea we still want to maybe readdress later down the line. Maybe Infinity War would be a good time for that.
I was going to say that.
Because that's an epic one, and it's bringing everybody together, so we could do that for the Crooked Table Podcast. Because you guys are my two regular guest co-hosts, so it would be fun to have that be like, oh, we're uniting like the Avengers and the Guardians are meeting. I don't know which of you would be which. Freddie would be Guardians probably, because Freddie loves the Guardians of the Galaxy more than either you or I.
Right, and I am an Avengers fan, but mostly Captain America.
Yeah, I know. You love and Thor.
And Thor, yeah.
So going into Black Panther, getting to this movie, what I guess, everybody listening to this knows that I write a lot about movies, and I watch a lot of movies, and I read a lot of things about movies. Basically, I'm either talking about movies or I'm not talking, I guess, sleeping or eating. So going into this, what was your familiarity with the character of Black Panther prior to this movie? Like, other than, I guess, just basically just Civil War, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, if you're excluding before Civil War, then no. Had you even heard of the character prior to Civil War? No.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you?
I'd heard of the character because they've been trying to make a movie of him forever, and because of that, I've read certain things. Oh, it's the King of Wakanda and Vibranium and blah blah blah.
You know what?
But I didn't know that
now that I think about it, I read a lot of Cracked articles, and Cracked has sometimes like random articles, and I think there was like I remember there being a comic book one, like a comic book countdown, and it was talking about like what you know what, it wasn't Cracked, it was Money. It was a money.com article. It was talking about what comic book characters are the richest in the comic book universe. Oh
yeah, I remember hearing that too.
And it was like, I think like number 2 was Batman, and number 1 was Black Panther.
So Tony Stark was what, number 3 or something?
Probably.
Interesting.
Because, I think it was either Tony Stark or
Bruce Wayne,
but definitely number 1 was
the king of an entire country.
And I was like, who's that?
Yeah. So they've been trying to make a Black Panther movie since the 90s, where I mentioned this to you recently after we saw the movie, that Wesley Snipes was in talks to play Black Panther back, I don't know, mid-90s, I guess. Obviously, I don't know if it was before Blade or after Blade. Maybe they were trying to get him to play both. I feel like that would have been a little repetitive in a way, just because that's also kind of racist. We have two black heroes. We're going to have the same guy play him because it's only one black actor, right? I'm like, no, there's whatever. So I'm glad in a way that didn't happen, and that they were able to pull him off the way that they did. So were you a fan of Black Panther's appearance in Civil War? Like, did you like the character? Were you interested in seeing more of him? Were you like, okay, he's fine in this movie, but I don't really want to see him in a standalone? Because that's how I feel about some of the Avengers. Like, I like Falcon, I like Vision, I like Scarlet Witch. I don't really need to see a movie about any of them, like, standalone necessarily, you know? I even think that we're at that point where it's been pretty much proven on screen that the Hulk works best as a supporting character in a larger movie, whether it's Thor Ragnarok or one of the Avengers movies, than he does just as his own little Jekyll and Hyde story, because that kind of, it's only so much you can do with that on the big screen. So I guess that was a long question of, did you like Black Panther and Civil War?
Yeah, I did. I mean, one, I like cats. Like, big cats are cool, and I like that he was just very agile, like a cat would be, and
right.
More quiet. Like, he had a quiet strength about him. And I just thought it was fun. And I think that he won us all over when he met up with...
so the moment with Hawkeye that we referenced at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, that is like everybody laughs with that scene because it's just funny. But it's funny because in that movie he seemed a little bit more hardened pretty much the whole thing because he's on a mission. And then of course he softens out by the end. But then you see him in Black Panther and he's so much like...
compassionate and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, because you see, like as you alluded to, in that movie, you meet him for 5 seconds. He meets Black Widow, and then his father gets killed. Spoilers for Civil War, I guess. And then his whole point is, I'm going to get this guy who I believe killed my dad, thinking that it was Winter Soldier, when in actuality it was Zemo. And it's interesting because his sort of path of vengeance kind of mirrors Tony Stark's at the end, where his motivation is to go after Winter Soldier because he killed his parents. So I thought that was kind of an interesting parallel between the two. And there's some moments in there where you don't obviously see Wakanda until this movie, but where they allude to like his culture and their version of the afterlife. And I remember I was talking to you yesterday about this. And he's talking about, in my culture, death is not the end. It's more of a stepping off point. And we really get a beautiful payoff of that in this movie. So going into this, I think it's safe to say we were both excited to see how they were going to build out that character's presence in the MCU, as well as, I think also excited about the fact that this is kind of a cultural milestone and hopefully phenomenon akin to Wonder Woman's last year. This being, of course, for the Black community, whereas Wonder Woman was really kind of in a year that was really earmarked by the Women's March and the rise of modern feminism and Me Too and all that stuff, having Wonder Woman be one of the most successful movies of the year and overshadowing pretty much every other comic book movie in many ways. I think it was exciting for us going to Black Panther to have the African American community have its own version of that sort of, I don't know, excitement and fervor, right? And fan response. So we were excited about this. I actually saw it a few days early and was very mum about my reaction to Kai and Freddie saying, oh, you'll see, we'll see it, then we'll talk about it. So over the weekend, Kai and I went to see it, and we took our daughter, who, of course, not really interested in movies that much yet. She's only a year old. And what were your, I guess, overall thoughts / takeaways for the movie when it ended? And I was like, what would you think? And I was like all emotional and stuff.
Oh, I liked it a lot. I mean, I think that it did a beautiful job in, showing, the African landscape, but also, being very technologically advanced and, showing us a world that we're not really familiar with, or that's been stigmatized. And,
right.
I think that Chadwick Boseman played the Black Panther role really well. What they spoke about earlier was just like this quiet strength, the quiet presence about him. Like he didn't have to show off his strength as much as another character because he was strong in himself and compassionate, and that's what made him, a good leader. So I think I walked away with good feelings.
I've listened to a few podcasts already, obviously, talking about Black Panther. And I came across a term that I guess I wasn't really super familiar with, which is called Afrofuturism, which is basically the fusion of the African culture with like science fiction and slash fantastical elements. And I think that's part of what makes this movie feel so fresh, is that it's pretty much an all black cast with a few Tolkien white guys, obviously. And I didn't come up with that, unfortunately. That was pretty funny. Meme all over the internet about Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis. But it creates like the purest vision of that on the big screen, of having an all black cast, but then yet everything is really powered by technology. Basically, it's kind of a hidden future world within our own present day society, essentially, you know. And I think that it's from a world building perspective, they did a really good job of staying true to the African culture, from the costume design to the production design to a lot of the cultural traditions and nuances and things like that. And but bringing it into this world where we have a green rage monster and a guy in a red and gold flight suit and a super soldier and these gods and all this other stuff, where it's taken up to unrealistic and unbelievable heights, but still feels like grounded in something that would evolve from the Africa that we know. I think that was I basically said a longer way of saying what you just said, pretty much.
You just said it the Righter way.
I did say it the Righter way.
The WRITER
right.
way.
But also the right way, too. So...
Incorrect.
So, coming out of this movie, I was excited to see it, as we mentioned, based on Civil War and based on, what it would mean for the MCU and moving it forward, because Marvel's talked about how Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, maybe Hulk, but mostly the big three, their contracts were starting to become up, and they've been basically grooming who would probably be the next iteration of the Avengers, with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and Captain Marvel and Black Panther. And I think if that's the case, I think that this movie establishes Black Panther as probably the fulcrum for the Avengers lineup, in the same way that I told you earlier today off mic that Wonder Woman is basically the only character that DC has gotten right. So, or to that extent, at least. Some people like Batman and some people like Superman, but their future is more in question. Where it feels like this is easily a character that they can have be the new leader of the Avengers should Iron Man and Captain America be out of the picture. And I was excited to see this, but not expecting it to blow me away in the way it did. So I basically came out of this feeling like this is an accomplishment in a lot of ways, on the level of something like The Dark Knight, on the level of something like Logan, and even surpassing the Avengers in my mind, which I was not prepared for. Just because, I didn't know that much about this character, and I was like, well, Marvel movies have a tendency to be good, not great, a lot of times. There's 18 of them, and I'd say maybe 4 are, extraordinary, if that. And, so I was really floored by this, and it hit me as a real emotional level, because I think a lot of these movies are so surface level entertainment spectacle that they don't really have much of a deeper subtext,
Yeah. Well, I think that, though, Civil War did
somewhat.
A little bit, too. I think that they have been getting deeper.
Yeah.
There's been things going on in our own lives that these Marvel movies, I think, are really trying to touch upon. And Black Panther, of course, was no different. And, even though I don't experience that in my own life, I did have a lot of empathy for what was going on. And, and I guess for one of the spoilers, the character Killmonger, played by Michael B. Jordan, I really think he pulled from his own personal experiences, because he was very angry as this character, and you believed him, and he just wanted destruction, and he pulled it off. It was authentic, and obviously he's not like that in real life, I'd like to think, but and I was sympathetic to that, because this is, our world U.S. is kind of going in that direction. So
right.
It touched upon that.
And I think the movie is, it's a sci-fi adventure, whatever, but it's also, in a lot of ways, a commentary on what it means to be black in the world, in America, and that experience, and the fact that T'Challa and Killmonger come from the same world, but have such vastly different life experiences. With Killmonger being raised, in America and kind of traveling the world as a soldier, and T'Challa being in this like little basically.
And isn't Oakland like
privileged bubble?
Isn't Oakland near Compton?
Wakanda.
Like, isn't Oakland like considered more like.
Oakland's like the sister city to LA.
Crime-ridden city, in LA, Los Angeles County.
I believe so. I mean,
and then, of course, then you have the polarity
but
of Black Panther, T'Challa, he's born a king with tons of money around.
Yeah, privilege and all that. And the moral question that the movie posits is that, should T'Challa and Wakanda, should they share their technology and share that with the world? And T'Challa is more traditional minded throughout the film, whereas Killmonger's like, no, we should send our technology and our weapons out to black people all around the world and have them rise up against our oppressors, because our culture, our people have been through so much shit, and of course alluding to slavery and treatment by police officers and like brutality and all that stuff, racism, segregation, you name it. It's been a long bumpy road for Black Americans, or African Americans, or Africans, period, really, blacks everywhere. And I think the movie has sort of it works on an allegorical level in the way that like X-Men does, where it's like, if you look at X-Men as a metaphor for people that are, a different race, people that are gay, as Bryan Singer is, and kind of looked at it from that perspective. And Professor X is like, no, we should work together to understand each other and, share our knowledge or whatever, and form a bond of coexistence. And then Magneto's like, fuck these people. We're all people should be gay / black / religion, whatever thing, And I think this movie kind of raises similar questions for black people. Should they rise up against? It's like the Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King thing, exactly. Again, all over again. So T'Challa's like, well, let's stay and do our own thing. I don't know if I want to get involved, or if I do want to get involved, it's going to be in a more humanitarian way, which is the way he ultimately ends up at the end of the movie. Spoilers, I guess. Like I said, it's all spoilers. And then Killmonger's like, no, fuck these people. We need to rise up, empower black people everywhere, send our weapons out there, and wage war basically on a global scale, because we can win. And sort of harnessing that power is, to put yourself on top, or to be for the greater good and to be beneficial. And that's why I think it pissed me off, because as you mentioned, we've talked about this, that all these, to use a term that I don't really like, all these fake news articles about people like trolls or whatever online taking, spreading these false rumors of attacks on white people at Black Panther screenings. And that's why when you brought that up to me, what was my reaction? Do you remember?
No.
Well, I was saying about how pissed off it made me, because this whole movie's message is about unity and everybody about coming together and we're all the same and blah blah blah. And then by the end, he's like, oh, we're all one tribe, and that's the message of the movie. That's the message this movie sends you out on. Coming out in this time where everybody's as divided as possible in this world, but also specifically in this country. And here's this outsider for Americans coming into the global stage and saying, hey, I want to help. Let's work together to make this world a better place, to say it for everybody's mutual well-being. And that's the message that they send you out of the theater with, minus the post-credits scene. So the fact that people were perverting and twisting that and be like, no, but black people are bad. Look at this fake bullshit we're making up. That pissed me off, because it's such
very upsetting.
It's like same thing with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's whole message about that movie is her superpower in the end is love. It's compassion for other people, and for people to turn that around and be like guys being pissed off, like, I want to go to this. Why are you having women only screenings? I'm like, they don't understand this is an important movie for people. For women, in the case of Wonder Woman, or for black people, in the case of Black Panther. That doesn't mean other people like us white people, can't enjoy it or relate to it or empathize with those stories, because ultimately it's just a human story more than anything else. But the fact that those movies are pushing such positive messages and not like sadistic bullshit, like, I like Batman v Superman, all right. It doesn't execute the themes that it's trying to get to as well as Civil War does. But ultimately, that's a movie about, like, I'm pissed, let's fight.
That's true.
It's like, there's not really much of a message in there.
Macho bullshit.
I mean, until the end where he's like, whoa, this guy I just met, I was wrong about him. I'm too late. I fucked up. Oh, well. That's Batman's arc, I guess.
Yeah.
But these movies are very powerful, and these are Wonder Woman and Black Panther. I feel really proud to be a parent right now and to have, these are going to be the superhero movies that our child's going to grow up with, and children of her generation are going to grow up watching Black Panther and Wonder Woman and a lot of these other movies that are more positive messaging, as opposed to, oh, he killed the bad guy, yay, you know what I mean? Even the death of the villain in this movie is very melancholic and very, powerful and reflective about the Black experience, about the struggle, and about, while like you said, while that's not something we personally relate to, the Black experience, obviously, we're aware of the world around us, and we know what people like that have gone through, and the fact that the movie's making such a articulate point about that, it's really powerful. And the ending with Killmonger's death, spoilers, is really powerful, as opposed to like,
He had a really good line.
Yeah. About bury me in the ocean like my ancestors, because even they knew that death was better than bondage. Talking about people jumping off slave ships, that kind of thing. It's really impactful. And there were several times seeing this movie with you a second time. When I watch movies for the first time, sometimes it's easy for me to get all in my head and be like, all right, I'm gonna watch this as a critic. What rating are we at now? And not really give myself over to the emotional experience of watching it. And I think that's part of why some of the Oscar movies, the Best Picture movies, I'm like, okay, yeah, I liked, Lady Bird or whatever. And it's hard for me because I need to see it a second time to let it really like wash over me in a way. So seeing with you a second time, there was probably half a dozen times where I was getting all emotional because of something, the way a performance was going, a performance moment, or a theme, or so it's like the music, or just like pretty much everything with the ancestral plane was amazing. And yeah, I don't know. So it was a very powerful experience for me seeing this movie, and that's why I put it at my number one as far as the MCU is concerned. Maybe not the best comic book movie of all time, but of the 18, and out of 18, that's pretty hard to top Avengers and some of the other ones. This is definitely my number one.
And if you guys are curious about Rob's ranking, you can actually go to his Letterboxd account to check out his top Marvel movies. If you go to and some other lists too.
If you go to crookedtable.com/contact or something, I think you can definitely see all the ways to connect with me, my social media, and I'm pretty sure I do have my Letterboxd account on there.
And in case you guys are curious, I'm on Letterboxd
yes,
too, but I don't make lists.
So you'll see if you go to crookedtable.com/contact, you'll see under the social media for like Twitter and Instagram and stuff, you'll see my Letterboxd, and if you just click that, it'll take you to my profile, and it's really fun. You can go on there and rate movies, or if you're weird like Kai, you're like, I watched this today. I need a diary of every time I watch a movie. I need to record it.
Well, it's not just that, but Rob and I, we make choices. So every other choice.
We alternate who picks the movie that we watch.
So, so Rob would be like, whose choices? I'm like, let me check my Letterboxd. Otherwise, it's mine.
Well, because I'm obviously way more into movies than Kaya. So if we didn't do that, it would just be my choice constantly, and that wouldn't be fair to you. What did you pick recently? I forgot what the last one we watched was.
Before you.
Oh.
Wait.
Before we go.
Before we go.
Yeah, me before you. I've heard not.
That's the one. Oh, that's right.
That's Emilia Clarke or whatever. Yeah. No, Before We Go was okay. It was fine.
Which, by the way, that does have an Avenger in it.
Yeah, Chris Evans directed and stars in it.
That might be why I wanted to see it.
Yeah. Oh, that's totally why you wanted to see it.
Okay.
It's okay. I understand. So I guess going into this, should we just talk about our top 5 MCU movies real fast? Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. So my number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I have a whole Crooked Table podcast episode about why I like that. My number 4. Will you have your number 5?
I want you to first.
Okay. My number 4 is Captain America: Civil War. My number 3 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. My number 2 is The Avengers. My number 1 is Black Panther.
Very nice.
Which I spent like 10 minutes talking about, like on the deeper level why it edges out The Avengers for me.
And this is very important to Rob that he actually has asked me about this, like my ranking, like the last.
Well, because I know you. If I don't nag you, you're not going to think about it.
That's true. Okay, so for me,
do you know the order, or do you just?
I'm going to say number 5. Thor Ragnarok. Number 4.
You were gonna go number 6. Okay, wrong direction.
Number 4. Let's go with Iron Man 3, because I thought it was really fun.
I like Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3 was.
It's
just
a little
fun.
on the lower side for me, but that doesn't mean I don't like it.
And I thought with the whole idea with Manchurian was Was that his name?
The Mandarin.
Manchurian
Candidate is actually
that's probably why
a movie, but he calls Winter Soldier that.
Yeah, that's
Civil War.
There you go. That's bringing me into some of my list.
Okay, number 3.
Number 3 would be Captain America: Winter Soldier. Number 2, Captain America: Civil War, and number 1, Avengers.
So where's Black Panther then? Is it like 6?
I say Black Panther would be 6, and who knows?
You gave it
might run out. It might trump Thor Ragnarok.
You gave it 4.5, so that means all those other movies must be a 4.5
Well, if I make
higher.
a list, I have to then decide where they land, because of course, if something's scored higher, but then I like the other one
I think you should make your own version of the Marvel Cinematic list.
But I don't want to. I
think
have my
it'd be fun.
diary.
I guess, but don't you like ranking things?
I tell you what, if the people at the podcast world want me to do a ranking, I'll do it.
Yeah, what is it? At the Vault Key LLC?
Yes.
On Twitter?
Yeah.
There you go. People will nag you now.
There you go.
Maybe just me. I'll be like, hey, I'll just set up multiple new fake Twitter accounts and be like, hi, I listen to Crooked Table Podcast, and I want to see your ranking.
Or I could just do it myself. I could go on Twitter and then create a poll and be like, who wants me to start a Marvel ranking on Letterboxd?
There you go. I'll retweet it to my 1,200, 1,300 followers, whatever I have. Yeah. So that's our rankings on that. So going into the movie, normally when I review movies, I've done the hype, which I guess we sort of covered. The hype, the story. So what did we think as far as the story here? The story here is basically the whole movie hinges on a secret from T'Challa's past with his father and the cousin that he never knew he had. What did you think about the way that was established as far as bringing in Ulysses Klaue from Age of Ultron, as far as bringing in Everett Ross from Civil War, and the way that plays out, the way that he's challenged for the throne, and Killmonger's sort of emergence in Wakanda? I would say, what is that, about maybe 2/3 into the movie when he shows up with Klaue's body or something?
After the first hour, I think that happened.
So like the second half maybe?
Yeah, I think at that point you came to sit down after being in the lobby.
Maybe something like that. So what did you think about the way that the story was executed and everything?
I think it was good. I mean, obviously, watching the beginning of the film, I did not know what to expect with that scene. I was even thinking about it. I'm like, why was that even there? Because it jumped right to, Black Panther being crowned king.
Right. Which,
that was a very interesting scene. That they...
The challenge thing?
Yeah, and they kind of, wash all the water away so they can step on the mountains. And, and that was some intense action going on there, because people were bleeding, and they,
Well, the challenge was you're talking about him and M'Baku, right?
Yeah, and then, of course, the one with
Killmonger
was pretty intense, too, and that's why it's surprising that these movies are PG-13.
Well, and it was interesting, too, because this movie is, as I established, I didn't know this term beforehand, but Afrofuturist, and the way that it starts is interesting, because it's, you think it's a black action movie, whatever, and it starts out like an African American thriller from the 90s, like Dead Presidents or Sugar Hill or whatever, or one of those,
Boys in the Hood.
Boys in the Hood. And but there's another one. There's this one with Wesley Snipes.
Menace
to Society. When it sounds like it's like Juice, it's like that, for lack of a better term, the quote hood movies, I guess, of gangsters in California or New York or whatever, and then dealing with drugs or running guns or whatever they're doing. It starts like that, where they're wearing leather and they're checking for the cops and they're dealing arms or something, and then it all of a sudden you're nope, we're gonna dig past that into a much more expansive, more thematically rich, I think, in a lot of ways, version of the black experience in their story. You know what I mean? And I thought that was really a smart way to start off and sort of throw you off balance from the beginning. Like you were saying, you saw that one opening scene and you're like, wait, what the hell's happening now? What's going on?
Well, one thing that I don't understand is why he must have not trusted his brother in the first place to have sent another spy out in the same place.
Yeah, I agree.
And hunt him down to
keep an eye on him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good that he didn't even trust his own brother.
Well, maybe he had reason not to trust his own brother.
Then why would he send him out as a spy?
I don't know. That's a different movie. That's Black Panther prequel.
I don't, because I just thought about that. It's like if he didn't trust him to be a spy, then he maybe should have gotten to stay in Wakanda with everybody, and maybe he wouldn't be dead.
Maybe.
We wouldn't have Killmonger walk up there.
But before that, we get the voiceover of a little boy talking to his dad, being like, "Dad, tell me the story about."
Which we still don't know who that is.
Which I think it's Killmonger. I think it's Killmonger is the one asking his dad. I don't know if it even... Yes, even on the Wikipedia page, they don't explain who that is voiceover.
Well, was the voice of the kid, was it American accent?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, then maybe it was
Dad, where are we from? Blah, blah, blah. And then you find out later on that Killmonger found the books, the ring, and all that as a kid. And that's how he learned about Wakanda, and that explains where he knows where it is, how he knows how he knows how to get there, and how he could speak it and things like that.
But how come it was imprinted on him, on his lip? Like,
because that's a genetic thing.
Oh.
I think.
Because vibranium.
I thought it was a genetic thing.
Oh.
That's the way I saw it.
Oh, I thought it was like being imprinted basically from they were born.
Right, because he wasn't born in Wakanda. Never been in Wakanda until then. Yeah.
So I guess it would have to be genetic because he had never been there. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So
some things don't have to be explained.
I guess, but yeah, I don't know. So they have the whole backstory of the 5 tribes, where it's like it almost looked like metal. It looked like those things that you had as a kid, the pins where you put your hand in it. It looked like that was what the hands.
Yeah, that was
like.
cool.
Like it looked like the animatic or what have you of the Wakandan backstory looked like it was almost made of vibranium. You know what I mean? It looked like this kind of technology Shuri, and we'll get to her in a minute, Shuri was used to tell the story of that in a way. And that was really cool. So right from the beginning, I was like, that's the weird thing. A lot of the stuff in here is so supernatural and fantastical in a way. And sometimes that's hard to land, where you're watching it and you're like, okay, this sounds like made up bullshit, which it is. But for some reason, I was like, heart-shaped herb. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, no,
the 5 tribes. It was a meteorite. Like it's totally like
it's still grounding, even if it's fantastical.
A meteorite from space landed here, and now we all take this herb to get powers and all this shit.
It's not like Thor: The Dark World, where it has
red,
like the world
red
wasn't
glowy
created
thing.
enough. Yeah, it wasn't created enough.
That's in my letterbox. I had that I think second to last.
Yeah.
It's between that and Iron Man 2 for the weakest. So that's like the other end of the spectrum. But even that had me had me on board. So then you get to him coming back from I guess catching Zemo and turning him in, because as we saw in Civil War, he stops him from committing suicide and turns him in. So then we get to all the challenge and all that. So I thought it was really, I mean, you could say that it was sort of cliche for him to win the first challenge and then lose the second, and then he quote dies, and then but he's not really, because that happens a lot in these movies. Thor was
well, of course, you're
dead,
also
not really.
Plus, you're also not gonna kill the
right. But to do that fake out, is that kind of did you see that as a cop out, or you're like, it's a little cliche, but it works?
No, it was cliche, but also Killmonger's scary.
Yeah, Killmonger
for him to die
scary.
from the hands of Killmonger. I totally believe that, because he was intense.
How did you feel about the whole what a lot of people are calling sort of the James Bond sequence, where they go to South Korea and they're wearing cool suits and they're undercover, and then they have this crazy showdown with Ulysses Claw that's kind of spins out into a car chase?
Oh, that was fun. I like that.
It was so much fun.
Yeah,
I
think that it was a good way to see Black Panther in action, and with the suit and stuff. And
yeah. I do think, and I've heard this, I saw this criticism elsewhere, and I was even thinking when I saw the movie the first time, and you probably agree, that first action sequence, when they're going to get Nakia in Nigeria, she's doing a mission there. I
didn't even know where she was. I don't know.
Yeah, they said it. They said it real fast. They put it on the screen in Wakandan language and then translating.
Oh
it.
Yeah,
that's cool
right.
too. There's so
Yeah.
much cool stuff happening. I did think that action sequence where he throws the little balls onto the trucks and it's EMP basically. I did feel like that was way darker than it should have been. It's hard to see what the hell's going on. Did you feel like that a little bit too? Because it's somebody turn the brightness up on the screen a little bit. Because it's night and he's in a black outfit, and it's hard. It was hard to make out a little bit.
Plus, I think it's possible that scene wasn't needed. They could have.
Well, they wanted to.
They could have given more exposition of what her mission was.
I think that's more
her going on a mission.
Yeah, but I think that it's a less clunky way of establishing, because that scene teaches you a lot. One, this is what time period we're in. He's watching the news and he saw about his father that passed away and he's going home, whatever. You meet Okoye. How do you say that? Okoye, I think. The Niagara character. It's hard to. I'm trying to make sure I'm pronouncing these better. And then you meet you introduce her. You introduce Nakia. You introduce how badass he is in the Black Panther suit. You introduce the technology that leads you to Shuri in the lab. So it's it's basically fitting in exposition in a better way than, let's talk about Nakia. I hope she shows up at my coronation, that ex that I still kind of have feelings for. Blah,
yeah,
blah, blah.
I guess so. I guess I was just
and
a little confused.
It's a little bit of a shorter, it's much shorter than the South Korean thing, which goes on for a while, but I would like that to be the whole movie, honestly.
Well, what was she doing in Nigeria?
It looked like she was trying to free those people. Okay. Because they were captured or kidnapped or whatever, like refugees or something.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why she was posing as one of them, and then they tell them that you're free to go, whatever, get out of here, and Okui is like, you will not speak of this day, or you will speak nothing of this day, or whatever. I thought that scene was fine as like an introduction. It was basically a taste of what was going on. But then throughout that they interweave the Killmonger thing in the art museum, which I thought was a cool scene.
Yeah, that was cool. And we just take it.
He's like, "Nah, I'm gonna take it off your hands."
Yeah,
man, I love this guy.
And from that scene alone, you could tell he was gonna be the villain. I mean, it was already not clear from the trailer.
Yeah, you only saw the first teaser trailer. You didn't see the full trailer until after the movie.
Good, I didn't.
They give away because you see him in the Black Panther suit and everything in the real trailer, the full trailer. So I had sort of saw images of it, but I didn't really watch because if I know I'm going to see a movie like Mission Impossible Fallout, which I'm hyped about, I didn't seek that trailer out. We saw it because it just happened to play before the movie. But I try not to learn too much about that. So Killmonger kills Claw, which was a bummer.
Yeah, but I think Andy Serkis also has a lot.
I'm jumping around here so we can get through
a lot of other projects going on, and he probably didn't want to be in the Marvel franchise much longer. I mean, he's in Star Wars.
Not anymore. Spoilers.
He was.
He was in Star Wars. If they ever do anything Hobbity, they can have Gollum come back. But I think we're done with that franchise now.
Yeah. And he's doing War of the Planet of the Apes. I mean, or he's a Planet of the Apes franchise, so he's doing a lot of stuff.
Right.
Good for him.
That's true.
And he didn't have to be motion captured in this movie.
I know, he was so much fun, actually. Yeah. But we're going to do the cast in a second. So story-wise, I thought it had a nice balance of what was going on in Wakanda. A lot of character moments between T'Challa and Forrest Whitaker. And it felt like the story, more than any Marvel movie, really, since Iron Man, honestly. It felt like the story had room to breathe. It's like you let characters have their moment, have their emotions, understand what their relationship, establish the dynamics between things, but delicately weaving in exposition. Like, Shuri is his cue for as far as James Bond again with the technology. But then you also use that scene to establish the relationship between the brother and the sister. All that stuff I thought was really well done. Even the fact that ultimately it's another Marvel hero fighting a villain that has the same powers and the same kind of technology, like Iron Man, like Thor, like a lot of these movies tend to be. Even that didn't bother me because they were also vying for the same position of being the king and being Black Panther. So it made sense that T'Challa had it, lost it, and then Killmonger got it, and now he's has to sort of fight to get it back, to win prominence, sort of. I thought that actually worked for me in this movie more than in the other ones.
That's kind of like, it made sense to me to have them have two Black Panthers, because in the wild there's two cats. That's true. That are vying for the. Well, you compared.
You said at some point this reminds me of Lion King a little bit, and that's sort of like watching the Lion King and being like, I like this, but I don't like that it's a lion fighting another lion. I'm like, well, the king is a lion, so it makes sense that a lion would be challenged by another lion and have to rise up against that lion to be like, I'm the king lion. Right. So it's like that. So it didn't feel as repetitive as like, oh, Tony Stark's fighting somebody in his metal suit. Who is he fighting? A dude in a metal suit. I'm like, oh, okay. Who's he fighting this time? Another dude with the same kind of technology. I'm like, okay, Jesus Christ. Who's he? You know what I mean?
Right. So it was more. I think it was more symbolic.
Right.
In that way that there's gonna be two Black Panthers.
Right.
Two Black Panthers are gonna have to fight to be the king of the pride.
Right. And I liked what they did with M'Baku and his sort of thing. There was a lot of real character moments in here. So that nice transition. We just did like a highlights of the story, I guess. So going into the cast, you already said Chadwick Boseman's really great in this.
Yes.
And he feels like he gives the kind of performance and makes this character someone that I wasn't really familiar with before Civil War. Makes me, first of all, want to read some of the comics, and secondly, makes me want to see much more of this guy on screen in a way that like Christian Bale's Batman was like really impactful, and you feel like this is a character and a hero that you want to get behind. I felt like that for Chadwick Boseman in here, and he has a lot of really powerful emotional moments throughout that he's more than just like you said, more than just the stoic revenge seeker that he was in Civil War. And you already talked about, you seem like you're really into Michael B. Jordan's performance here, because you mentioned it, but we only saw this movie like 2 days ago, and you're like, he's just so angry. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Well, they called him out on that too. He's like, you're so full of hate, and the thing is we were talking earlier on the podcast about how he wants to have them rise up against his oppressors. But the reality was he was also had so much hate and anger in his heart that he was even rising up against his own people, being like, "Oh, don't you
burn
say
it
that.
all!
Yeah, don't say that to me again. I'm king." And like,
that was.
And it's like if the
what's
Daniel Kaluuya's character's name?
Daniel Kaluuya is oh man.
Well, anyway, if he didn't
Wakabi. If he didn't go, make sure I got it right.
If he didn't go in with him, then Killmonger would kill him. Like. So it's like Killmonger was, I feel like, more acting also in a state of selfishness than really wanting to 100% wanting to.
Well, but it's also he's coming from his experience, and his experience is you have to be this way, you have to be hard, you have to fight for.
But it's also oppressing his
yours
own people in fear.
Yeah, but because he felt like he was taking the mantle of his father's mission. His father was smuggling vibranium out there in the same way to get it out to the people and that kind of thing.
But his father didn't seem like he had
not like
hate
this,
in his heart.
not like this.
Yeah,
and you can see when he goes to the ancestral plane, which we'll get that in a second. We're going to do production next. I felt like you could see his father sort of trying to reach out to him, and him when he was reacting like, oh, maybe they're the ones that lost. Maybe we need to like kind of stand our ground. And you can see his father like rolls a tear, like he's realizing what his son has turned into, sort of, in a way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was very subtle. It was very subtle. Well, I mean, it was also the ancestral plane to me is like, that scene is like part flashback, part visiting a ghost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I felt like in a way that we were replaying something that really happened when he was a boy, but also both parties were aware that it wasn't happening in real time. It was like an otherworldly encounter in a way. So I could see he was sort of realizing what his son, because then you go from little Killmonger to grown-up Killmonger in that scene.
Mm-hmm. And I guess maybe he got hardened after his
dad got killed.
Unintentionally abandoned.
Right. Well, intentionally abandoned by T'Chaka.
Well, yeah, but not by his father.
Right. No, not by his father. So it's interesting. Like, you can almost root for him in this movie because his mission is like, you understand where he's coming from, sort of like Loki, which is why I'd say that he's probably the best villain since Loki. And Loki's not even really a villain anymore. He's teaming up with Thor now, and well, we'll see. He hands over the Tesseract to Thanos, so we don't know if he's like, here we go, our plan worked perfectly, or if he's like, oh fuck, I hate you, I want to save the Asgardian people. But you mentioned Daniel Kaluuya, and that I thought he was good in this too. And a lot of reports are that Okuya's lesbian relationship was excised, and Daniel Kaluuya's part was elevated, and so that they made those two characters in a relationship. A lot of the criticisms that I've heard, one of the main things that they've said about this movie, some of the critics that I've listened to the podcast and stuff, is that his character's like turn didn't feel well enough established. Did you feel that? Like when he's like all of a sudden, oh, my best friend, we could go and we could win together, and all of a sudden he's like, no, get T'Challa. Did that feel earned to you, or did it feel like they like jumped too far and it didn't really make sense for that character?
No, I think it made sense.
So did I. Yeah,
because they were talking about it in the movie when T'Challa was bringing up what Nakia said about them trying to help out the rest of the world and still maintain Wakanda, and I think
what are you looking for?
Okoye. I think he even mentioned that he.
That's Denai Guerrero. You're talking about Wakabi.
Wakabi, gosh.
I know.
Sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep these names straight.
And they're very specific, detailed African names, and we don't want to sound like idiots.
Right. And I even have a hard name to pronounce. Do you think I'd be?
Well, everybody calls you Kia or K. Or something.
Exactly.
Like, it's 3 letters.
Kaya,
Come on now.
Yeah, and didn't he say something in the movie like, why shouldn't we do something like that?
Yeah, so he was trying to reason with T'Challa in the beginning. But then
in the beginning, he's like, "Oh, you're gonna go get," and then he's like, "Oh, you're gonna go get Claw. My parents have tried.
Bring him back here."
Yeah, like they killed my parents. And then he let him down.
Well, because they've been T'Chaka was trying to get Claw for 30 years apparently, and he's like,
now Killmonger got him.
I have no other options. So.
And so then I guess Okoye. Oh wait,
no, Wakabi.
Wakabi felt more a closeness with Killmonger than he did with T'Challa at that point, because
T'Challa wasn't. Yeah, exactly. Plus, as you pointed out, Killmonger's scary. So even if W'Kabi wanted to uprise against him, how's that going to work? Not going to go
If he
well.
killed Black Panther, T'Challa, then it is... Yeah.
So he was good in this. Daniel Kaluuya, obviously he's much better in Get Out because he has a much more substantive part in that. But I thought he was fun. We already talked about Andy Serkis, and he's basically like T'Challa's Joker here, making it rain and singing Hadaway at one point, which was really funny. And Martin Freeman was good. Martin Freeman's usually pretty good. And I like that character. And he's already confirmed that we're going to see more of him in the future. I don't know where exactly.
It's just so weird because he showed up in Civil War.
For like 2 minutes. He's
all
little.
of a sudden. Even though he's not related to General Ross.
No. But
so
hey, I don't know. It's the comic book.
Whatever.
That's what the names are in the comic book.
Now they just need Ross Geller.
Winston Duke was great as M'Baku.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the biggest laughs. We'll feed you to my children.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. We are vegetarians.
Or, are you
that
done?
was great. Yeah.
Are you done?
Like, seriously, are you done? Yeah, he was great in that. And Angela Bassett is Angela.
Well, here's some trivia for you. Lupita Nyong'o and Winston
actually.
Duke actually went to Yale together. And I think they were roommates.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
He's cool. He seems like a nice, like a good actor. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with him, but I like to see him in more stuff. And then Forrest Whitaker was much better in here than he was in Rogue One. He was actually really shitty in Rogue One, in my opinion. But I also don't really like that movie. You can listen to Crooked Table podcast episode about that.
Or maybe Forrest Whitaker's just like, I want to be in a Star Wars movie.
But like, even that's what I'm saying. We're in this is a Marvel movie where they're usually like go, setting up other movies. There were very few references to the other films in this until the post-credit scene with, spoilers, Bucky showing up with his one arm thing, and there was a very subtle reference. I wonder if
he's gonna get Claw's arm.
Oh, he'll
That's
probably get a vibranium arm. I think you might even see it in the Infinity War trailer.
What was the other arm he had before?
It was just metal. It was like,
I guess, yeah.
If it was vibranium, Iron Man would have a hard time blowing it off. Let me tell you. But there's very little as far as there's no Infinity Stones in this. There's no Thanos. There's no like cameos by anybody that's like not directly involved in the story. And that scene with Forrest Whitaker talking to him and with the flashback of how T'Chaka killed his own brother, and he's like, he killed his own brother to save my life. Like, that was really, like, there was a lot of it was a very emotional movie, considering that this is from the same people that made Ant-Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I loved me, I'm emotionally driven. You can listen to my How I Rate Movie. I feel like I'm really promoting everything, but it's relevant. So, the How I Rate Movies episode of the Creek Table podcast from a few episodes ago. But let's break it down. I've saved this specifically. The best thing about this movie, as far as performance-wise, is the ladies. Lupita Nyong'o I kind of have a crush on now.
You had a crush on her
after this movie and Star Wars and I still need to see Queen of Katwe. It's on Netflix and I've heard it's really good. It's like the only movie that she is really like the sole lead of, and so I need to watch that. Denai Guerrera as Okoye was great. So powerful, that moment the moment in the club where she throws the wig at the guy and then she like stops the car with the spear. Oh, that was so great. And then Lupita Nyong'o's like rolling up, just holding the steering wheel. That was a huge laugh from people. So much fun. And then later on with Daniel Kaluuya when he's like, "Would you kill me, my love?" And she's like, "For Wakanda," and holds the spear to him. It's like, without question. And I get chills from that, even from that moment. And it's not even like a badass car chase or like somebody saying, my daddy died killing my whatever. So she was great. Angela Bassett is, of course, great in everything. She's Angela Bassett. She's usually pretty great and stuff. And she has a kind of a more limited role here than the other ones, but she does have more substance as they go to Jabari land later on. And it feels like the Wakandan version of Rene Russo in Asgard. So hopefully they don't kill Angela Bassett in the sequel, because I like her and as this character as Ramonda. Ramonda. Sorry, I don't know if that's... But I think the big takeaway for both of us in this movie, we were like, holy shit, who is Letitia Wright?
Yeah.
Because she steals every scene she's in. She's just like teasing her brother constantly. So she's got a sense of humor. She's apparently, from what I've heard in some of the press for this movie, the smartest person in the world. One of the directors called her, and smartest person in the world in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, obviously. More than Tony Stark or any of the other... Bruce Banner or any of them.
And those two come together as heroes, it's going to be...
I don't know if
unstoppable.
I don't know if we know about Iron Man, if Iron Man goes to Wakanda in Infinity War, because there's no footage of that.
But I would think that Shuri would show up in Infinity War.
She is going to be in Infinity War.
Okay,
but Wakanda is going to be... but there's some scene set on Wakanda, so I don't know if when it comes down to facing Thanos, if everybody, Wakanda people are all going to get on a ship and go over there.
Well, my dad, who I just talked to today about the movie, he seems to think that the other Infinity Stone is in Wakanda.
Yeah,
that it's vibranium itself.
That's a big theory. I think that's a big theory.
Because I guess it makes sense. It's vibranium
I think
itself.
the color doesn't match up with what the Soul Stone would be in the color, but I read something recently that reminded me that the Tesseract, the thing in Loki's spear, when they cracked it opened up and it was yellow inside, and that's what's in Vision's head. So maybe people are thinking maybe inside the meteorite it's the right color to correspond.
And plus with vibranium, it is from space.
Right.
So it would make sense.
Right. No, that would make total sense, and that would also explain why Thanos is in Wakanda to get that, and why Captain America and Bucky and Black Panther and like a few of the other people, like you see in the trailer for Infinity War, are ready to rise up. They're being attacked by Thanos and or his henchmen. Because based on what we see in the trailer for Infinity War, it looks like a lot of it's... We got a lot of scenes in Wakanda, and we get a lot of scenes in New York, because Spider-Man's on the bus looking at the thing. Doctor Strange is with Tony Stark and shit, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and then you have... So basically, it looks like it's going to be Wakanda, New York, and then space, because the Guardians and meet up with Thor at some point. So it'll be, I'm excited, obviously.
How is Thanos going to stand a chance against all these guys?
60-something characters or whatever.
Yeah, they all have their own special powers.
Seriously. But Letitia Wright was so great in this movie. She was so funny and smart and charming, and the way, like the little things where he's like, oh, I'm going to take Nakia on this mission, and she's like, oh, and he's like, oh, and you'll be on call for backup. And she's like, yes. And she gets all excited when she gets called up to go in the little remote thing, and she just runs over the guy.
Yeah, what great technology that is. That's what we need. That was
so great. And she runs over the guy, and he's like, she's like, what was that? And he's like, nothing. Don't worry about it. You're doing great. All that was, and then of course that plays back in later with Everett Ross flying the plane because he was an Air Force pilot. It was like, this was one of those movies. And honestly, I give it a 4.5, but like if I'm trying to think of something I didn't like about it, I'm having a really hard time. Like, I might end up bumping it up to a 5 at some point. Like, even the criticisms that I'm hearing from people, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It didn't bother me. I didn't see that. You know? It's really weird because this is not like a Batman or something, or a team-up movie. This is a new character that I'm only really now learning about. And for it to hit me that hard, I did not expect that. But so the ladies were the best part of this movie. Like, the freshest part, the discovery part. We knew Chadwick Boseman. We've seen him in a lot of these characters in other movies and stuff like that. So we knew, oh, Andy Serkis, But we went in and he's like, Denai Guerrero, who I know is on Walking Dead, but I haven't seen that show, so I don't know I'm not familiar with her character there.
Well, let me ask you this, though. When that character, one of the female soldiers showed up in Civil War and was like...
Move or be moved.
Didn't you want to know more? Like, who are these people?
Yeah. The Dora Milaje.
Like, they kind of look like they're just female bodyguards. Sort of, and then you learn more about it in Black Panther.
Yeah, they're the MCU version of the Themyscira warriors, I guess, in the Amazon. So, do we want to talk about production? Do we have anything to say about the production? I guess this movie not nominated for Oscars. There's something fucked up, and it doesn't. I know I'm not saying that a Marvel movie will get nominated for Best Picture, even though I would be fine with that. But if this doesn't get nominated for costume design or production design or makeup and hairstyling, something, because there's so much detail put into this film. And yes, a lot of the backgrounds when they're standing on the waterfall, a lot of that obviously is green screen and things like that, because I've seen some behind the scenes shots and stuff. But even the little things, like when at his coronation, and then everybody's like doing the dancing and stuff, and the camera pans up and you see like this mountain full of people. And yes, a lot of that's CG or whatever. But
how did they get up there?
All with different costumes and all with different... Well, in that mountain, they might have parts where they can walk out of. The people might live in there. I don't know what's going on.
Oh.
We don't see inside there.
I thought that it was the clearing of the water. And then that's where they were able to go up the mountains. Remember that scene in the beginning of the movie where that tool that then separated the water?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Because it's a waterfall.
Right.
So, that was a really cool scene.
Yeah, so just there's so much of the design, like the train, the vibranium like train thing that the final battle takes place on. So much of the design of the film, the world building, like this feels like a real place in a way that we saw 3 movies with Asgard. I still don't feel like Asgard's a real place. You know what I mean? It's just, it felt really super CG and like shiny, and then Dark World had some cool touches, like you saw like their funeral tradition, like when they put to send it on a boat and it like goes out, and then that was neat. Like there were little touches like that, but this whole movie just felt so lived in and so much like a labor of love. and the design and like the details of every little bit of the Wakandan culture, that you could tell in a way it was, because it's unprecedented for a movie of this scale to have an all-black cast and a lot of black crew. You could tell that a lot of them were thinking, all right, this is the industry. The industry has been fucking ignoring us for decades, not really wanting to serve the black audience on this epic scale that you see every movie and it's all white people on the posters. We need to get this right.
I was thinking that too.
We need to nail this, because if we don't get this right, idiots in Hollywood are going to say, oh, well, see, nobody wants to see a black superhero.
Yes,
so we need to make sure that we nail this, execute this perfectly. Visually, performance-wise, the story needs to be tight, because up to now, yeah, you had Blade, which was an anomaly. But other than that, all the black superheroes are in terrible movies like Steel with Shaq, or the Catwoman movie with Halle Berry, or there's just straight up parodies like Blank Man and Meteor Man. Like there's no, you know what I mean? There's no black-led superhero films, and definitely not ones that cost $200 million like this cost.
Exactly, and it was really good that Disney, Marvel Studios is backing this movie, because it really needed. I think it really needed the support from Disney with that brand name and the money for the campaigning. And this movie is going global. I mean, there's only 3 countries left that it hasn't been released to, which is just coming global. Or Russia, I believe, Ukraine, and China. Right. Which might be some of the hardest markets, but
because of how they feel about minorities or women. This has got minority, like the black women in this movie are like the best thing about the movie. So that's cool too, because not only is this a huge movie for African Americans, but this is a huge movie for women. African American women.
Yeah,
are the strongest characters in this movie almost. Like the badass warriors in it are women,
and the smartest person in the world
is
a woman.
So
exactly.
It's like, and it's how they always say like, oh, behind every strong man is a strong woman. And behind this strong black man, there's an army of strong black women. The one that protects him, the sister that gives him the cool technology, the woman that he loves that like nourishes his soul, and his mother.
I know.
So that's so awesome.
Well,
you never see that on
Thor Ragnarok kind of similar thing with Valkyries, all women.
Yeah.
That fight, that defend Asgard. Like,
it feels
it's been an amazing year. For women and people of color.
Lucasfilm, which is also now Disney owned, obviously, has really made an effort with diversifying their casts and having now we have an Asian person in Star Wars, and we have a black person in Star Wars, and we have women leading like every Star Wars movie. I think Marvel is finally at that point now, where they've built up enough brand. We were talking about this earlier today. They have built up enough brand loyalty and, unprecedented success that even the studio executives at Disney are like, all right, I think we can swing risking $200 million on a black director, which is weird, which is really sad that they see that as such a risk, because there's an entire audience out there that never gets movies like this. But they see that even the like stingiest bean counters in Hollywood are like, well, that should probably pay off. Now people will go see fucking talking raccoon with a machine gun, or a dude who's like, I ride ants around.
No, it's just also so ridiculous, because we have all these white men-led films.
Right.
A lot of which don't even do that well, and yet we keep making movies with white men leading these films, having the thought process, and guess white man led film.
Well, you can say that about the directors too. A white man, does a mediocre indie film that barely breaks even, and guess what? They get Jurassic World or something like that. A black director, a black man director, or a woman of any color has to spend 15 years trying to get to their next movie made so they can make Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's not right. And I'm hopefully Ryan Coogler now, if Disney doesn't, and I said this on Twitter, if Disney doesn't lock him down for sequels like tomorrow after the box office receipts for this weekend, they're idiots. If they don't offer him a Star Wars movie or give him anything he wants to do, they're idiots, because he's a very strong. I still have to catch up with Fruitvale Station, and I think we'll do that together at some point soon. But he already made Creed, which is an amazing movie, and this, which is an amazing movie, and I've heard Fruitvale Station's an amazing movie. So clearly he's got the talent to do something, to continue doing really special projects like this. And I'm hoping that the same will be said of Ava DuVernay when Wrinkle in Time comes out, which is also Disney, which is also a black woman.
And I wanted to say that I think...
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. I actually just thought about this.
I have a lot to say.
I actually just thought about this. So I think even though a couple of years ago with the travesty that was happening with the Oscars and that it was Oscars so white,
right?
That's a horrible thing. That it was only really honoring white people and a lot of white men. but that was the turning point. Because if you've noticed, since then, it has been like diversity.
They made more efforts, yeah.
And it's working, you know, and that was the silver lining to that incident. It was more than just bringing, you know, more diverse audience to the membership of the Academy.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
It's bringing those also that diversity to our films, and I think it's paying off. And I think Regal Times will do really well as in addition.
I hope it's good. I mean, Ava DuVernay is a good filmmaker, so you know, it's a great cast. We'll see. Oprah's definitely behind it. But closing up the book on Black Panther, we have verdict time, I guess. As you guys can tell, I love this movie so much. Like, we just saw it, and I've been listening to the soundtrack and the score, like, on loop to the point that Kai's like, again with this, you gonna pray for me. You gonna pray for me. I don't know the words.
It's a good song, though.
It's a good song. All the stars are waving. I don't know the words, obviously.
Watch for Rob's karaoke of the Black Panther soundtrack coming your way.
Yeah, please don't. That's not gonna happen. You can see me singing online if you really want to, but I'm not gonna sing in that, just because I would do terribly. So no, it feels like it's a watershed moment for Hollywood, for Black talent in Hollywood, and I hope that they learn the right lesson from this and that they give more opportunities to Black actors, Black filmmakers, Black crew members. And, you know, I just...
And how about just people of color in general?
Yeah, like, people of color... Yeah, well, yeah, of course. Of course, people... Well, yeah, but the... Yeah, but
this one is specifically
African American. That's why I was mentioning that.
I know.
But yes, everybody, let's stop. Let's get over this whole bullshit about white people white men specifically running everything, and let's give women and people of color a chance to do stuff, because sometimes a lot of times they're more talented than we are. This is the first movie in the MCU. This is movie number 18, directed by anybody other than a white man, and it's my favorite. It's the best one. So what does that tell you?
Right on.
You know? So I look forward to rewatching this movie again. I'll probably listen to the soundtrack later as I'm editing this.
And this is gonna be the one. Is this gonna be one of the Blu-rays you buy right away?
Yeah, it is. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Special edition.
Yeah, I'll get the one that has the digital copy or whatever, like Target exclusive or Steelbook, whatever. I'll keep an eye out for what the options are. And I'm going to be hopefully writing an article either for crooktable.com or elsewhere ranking the top 20 superhero movies of the last 20 years, because I guess it's funny we're talking about Black superheroes this episode, because 20 years ago was Blade, who was really, at this point, until now, the only Black-led superhero movie that's actually worked really well. And Blade 2, not Blade Trinity. So to sort of commemorate those 20 years since Blade, and sort of, I feel like Blade was the very precursor to the modern age of comic book movies, and definitely Marvel having a hit at the box office, because every previous Marvel movie before that was shitty Captain America, shitty Punisher, shitty Fantastic Four, fucking Howard the Duck. So I'm going to be ranking the top 20 best superhero movies of the last 20 years, from Blade to Black Panther. And keep an eye out for that, either on crooktable.com or one of the other sites I write for.
You're going to have some DC superheroes on there, right?
Yeah, it's the 20 best superhero movies.
Because you have bookended it with two Marvel ones.
That's the 20 years ago it just so happens to be starting with a Black Marvel superhero and ending with a Black Marvel superhero. But there's going to be in the middle, there's a lot of other movies. I mean, spoilers, do you really think Dark Knight's not going to be on there? I mean, come on. It's just also Marvel's made more movies than DC has, and Marvel's made more good movies than DC has.
Well, Marvel's made a lot more movies in the last 20 years, but...
Yeah, that's what I mean. Well, that's what I'm saying, the last 20 years.
But DC was doing Batman 89 and everything,
right,
like, well before Marvel
right.
had their shit together.
But before that, DC was making Batman and Superman movies, and that's about it. So I feel like if I open it up to all
I don't want to take the risk. Let's just do the white dudes.
There'll be too much Batman there'll be like 5 Batman movies on the list if I do all the time.
Well, yeah, but you're also biased.
Yeah, I am. But it's also like DC's made nothing but Batman movies and Superman movies, most of which are not that great. Like, the first one's good, the second one's a mixed bag because it's production issues, and then the sequel 3 and 4 are terrible. So keep an eye out for that. I'm excited to see much more of all these actors again. I'm excited to see more of Black Panther in the MCU and Wakanda in general, starting with Infinity War and then hopefully going forward into Black Panther 2 and 3 or whatever shape the Avengers are going to take in. And I'm also looking way more forward to Ryan Coogler's next project, whether it's Black Panther 2 or whatever they lock him down for. And hopefully I'm looking forward to much more diversity on film, both on camera and behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was a really good film, very well done. It definitely felt fresh. It didn't feel like the typical Marvel formulaic fare. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next, and I guess Infinity War is next, and yeah.
So you gave this a 4.5, you said on Letterboxd, right?
I did.
Just to clarify that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I gave it a 4.5, but as I mentioned, I could easily see that elevating a little bit in the near future. So hold on one second, let me bring this here. So that's Black Panther. If you saw Black Panther, and it's estimated to make over $200 million this weekend, which is insane.
Didn't it already make over $200 million?
Well, it's the weekend we're recording this on Monday, so the holiday weekend ends tonight technically.
Oh, right, I'm just saying, didn't it already make 225?
Well, I think that's estimating. That's estimates. That could probably go up or down slightly based on when the final numbers come in, because people have to see it today. Like right now, we're recording this at like 3 something on Monday night. There's still 7 o'clock showing, 9 o'clock showing.
Right, no, I know. I just thought it was already breaking records.
It's baking based on estimates a lot of times. And sometimes those numbers fudge a little bit here and there. So that's all we have for now on the Cricket Table Podcast. You can rate and review us on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher if you'd be so kind. You can find me, Robert Yaniz Jr., on Twitter at Cricket Table.
And you can find me, Kai Yaniz, at the Vault Key LLC on Twitter. Of
course, you can find more podcasts, reviews, and videos. We have a new video on crickettable.com. I'm trying to finally get back into that, and other movie-related goodies over at crickettable.com. Next episode, I'm going to be doing the first of 2 parts, talking about 20 years. It's interesting, because now this is going to be 20 years since I really got into the Oscar season, with, of course, the year Titanic won Best Picture. So I'm going to be going back. There was a couple blind spots that I had for Best Picture winners, so I'm going back and looking at all the Best Picture winners from Titanic through to Moonlight, and ranking those based on personal preference, based on cultural impact, based on how well the movie has aged over the years, that kind of thing. So next week will be the first of 2 parts, breaking down 20 to 11 of that, and then just before the Oscars, doing the top 10 best picture winners of the last 20 years. Till then, I've been Rob.
And I'm Kai.
We'll get you around the table next week. Roll credits.
This has been a production of crickettable.com. All rights reserved.
CR-O-O-K-E-D.